First of all, I would like to thank the 10th day and the committee members for giving me this honor to be able to share the platform with you for 3 days. It truly is my pleasure. These days we're commemorating the auspicious occasion of the demise anniversary of Her Holiness Lady Fatima alayhi salam, and inshallah her light will be all enlightened with her light, enlightened with her ethics, enlightened with her iman, inshallah. Also today you may have heard the demise of Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi. I want to offer my sincere condolences to all you brothers and sisters, who was a very prolific scholar of contemporary times, and also he was the one who crowned me with the turban. Yesterday, my second cousin, my father's first cousin, passed away at the age of 40, and his name was Hussain. So inshallah, if we can start with a Fatiha for all the blessed souls amongst your family and friends, those who have passed away. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The title given, and inshallah I'll start speaking on this theme, is in relation to dua and a number of marginal issues in relation to the dua. And I want to start off with a verse in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 186. The verse reads, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. This verse is unique in many ways. One of the features, one of the unique features of this verse is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the first person singular 7 times in this one verse. The first person singular, like me or I. He uses it 7 times. There's no verse which uses the first person singular pronoun 7 times. And this itself shows that the verse is conveying a specific and a point of utmost significance. It says that whenever my servants ask you, the Prophet, concerning me, so my servants ask you, the Prophet, concerning me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, verily I, the 3rd time, I am near. Ujibu, I answer, da'wat ad-da, the call of the caller, idha da'ani, when they call me. That's 5 times. And then it ends by saying, so let them respond to me and have iman in relation to me, so that they become rightly guided. Okay, now naturally the clause, the operative clause, which I want to open up, is I answer the call of the caller when he calls me. This is very important in relation to dua and in relation to invoking, supplicating and calling upon Allah. The key and the prerequisites are mentioned here in this verse. Usually Muslims are drowned in the etiquettes of dua, the secondary conditions of dua, when to recite it, how many times, at night or in the morning, which phase of the day. These are all secondary matters and are therefore of secondary use. And when something is of secondary importance, it means they are of no use unless the primary prerequisites are abided by. So you may stick by all the etiquettes of dua and the secondary conditions, but the dua will still be lacking. It won't even qualify as a dua. It won't even qualify as you calling upon Allah. So this is something I want to try and open up, inshallah, tonight. So when my servants call me concerning me, this calling is an existential calling. When we call, when we ask the Holy Prophet concerning Allah, this asking, is it just a verbal asking, or is there more to it? In the Quran, when asking, the term sa'ala is used, we see that everyone is in the process of asking more 24/7. Everyone, whether they are aware of it or not. In chapter 55, verse 29 or maybe 39, it reads, يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Those who are in the heavens and earth, they ask Allah. So this asking shouldn't be treated lightly. It's something we are all doing, whether you are aware of it or not. It's a providential order. And maybe it wasn't our choice, but we are asking moment to moment. Now this is important to bear in mind. And in Dua Kumail it starts, Inni as'aluka. In Dua Kumail, that verily I am asking you. The essence of us, we are asking entities. Because those who are holy with a W, destitute before Allah, their essence is one of merely asking that higher order, asking Allah. So whenever my servants ask you, the Prophet, concerning me, I am near, Allah says. This nearness also isn't an arbitrary nearness. Rather, it's an existential nearness. The nearness of Allah in relation to us is like the nearness of water in an ocean, for example. The water, how near it is to the waves of the ocean. Or for example, the nearness of thread to the clothes of a clothes shop. Even a better example, the nearness of the mind in relation to the mental concepts that we have, mental concepts or pictures, the nearness of the mind in relation to that. And ultimately, the prime example is the nearness of pure existence to existing beings. Allah is near. With these different analogies I've given, although the last one wasn't an analogy, whatever exists, it's in unity with Allah, it's manifesting Allah. There's nothing but Allah, Allahu Samad. It's all pure existence. It's all Allah acting Allah li. There's nothing other than Allah. That doesn't exist. When you say other than Allah, it doesn't exist. It's a non-entity. It's impossible. It's like saying other than existence. It's impossible. In the same way that the clothes shop, the clothes are a manifestation of the thread, and the mental pictures are a manifestation of the mind. In the real external realm, everything that is a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To say other than Allah, it's futile. And this is a delicate point, and it can be extrapolated in our du'as, where you may have heard of the term darul ghurur, and that's usually used in opposition to darul qarar. Darul ghurur is the abode of deception, where you see the sun or the moon or the human or the animal, and you see it as an independent entity. You look at the animal, plant, sun, moon in and of itself. Whatever you see minus Allah, that's a non-entity. It doesn't exist. You are in your own abode of deception, darul ghurur. You are deceived. You are far away from the truth. You're just concocting for yourself in your mind. The tree qua the tree, the sun qua the sun, in and of themselves, it's a non-entity. We only have one existence. It's all Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pure existence. Everything is manifesting it. To say other than Allah, with this in mind, that things exist in and of themselves, separate from Allah, that would be a sign of one's tawheed lacking. فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, Allah is near. I am near. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاءِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I answer the call of the caller when he calls. The call of the caller. Okay. So all these du'as that we do, Allah says, I will answer. I answer. Moment to moment. It's one of Allah's names. Ya Mujib. He's answering people's calls moment to moment. But look, it says, because it's a promise of Allah. When Allah gives a categorical statement, it's a promise. It's going to happen. There's no exceptions to it. When He says He's going to answer, He's going to answer. Who is He going to answer? The call of the caller. Okay, aren't me and you callers? Don't we call Allah every day? Don't we invoke Allah every day? Supplicate every day? So why don't we receive that which we are supplicating for? All these things that we're supplicating for, what percentage do we see Allah's answer? Maybe for most of the things that we call upon Allah verbally, maybe only a minority are given and are answered. This goes against the verse. And this therefore shows this calling isn't a verbal calling. Just going back to my introduction, that existential asking of Allah. This verbal regurgitation and verbal calling Allah, supplicating before Allah, that's not the goal. And that's not what Allah is referring to in the verse. And common sense also indicates that. How many times have we supplicated and invoked Allah, but it was of no response. The verse isn't in relation to verbal recantations and regurgitations and verbal utterances and so on and so forth. Something much more important is at stake here in this verse. 7 times Allah is using the first person singular pronoun. Me, I. It says, I answer the call of the caller. It doesn't say, I answer the call of the Muslims. Look, it doesn't say, I answer the call of the Shias and not the Sunnis, for example, or not the Christians. It doesn't say, I answer only the Muslims, not the Christians. I answer the call of the Sunnis, not the Shias. No, it's used in the absolute sense here. I answer the call of the caller. It doesn't say, I answer the call of the Imams only. Look, there's something here. There's a code to be unraveled here in this verse. It says, I answer da'wat da, the call of the da'a, of the caller. But this caller, you have to qualify as a caller. It's not something verbal. It's not something verbal. It's deeper than that. But if you qualify as a caller, Allah will respond. 100%, no going back. But you have to qualify as a caller. Even if one is like Iblis, but qualifies as a caller, Allah will respond. In chapter 7, verses 14 and 15, Iblis says, قَالَ أَنذِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh Allah, give me a respite period. A period to the day that they are resurrected. Until then, give me a period, because I can prove to you or show you that these Bani Adam, the descendants of Adam, they are not obedient to you. They are not faithful to you. They will break their promise. Iblis called upon Allah with a call and asked and invoked Allah to give him, to grant him a respite period. Allah replied, Qala, Allah said, Innaka minal mundarin. You are of those who have been granted the respite period. I'll give you this period that you've called for. Allah will answer the call of the caller, whoever you are, in the absolute sense, even if Iblis calls upon Allah. The point, however, is this: you have to qualify as a caller. This is the first prerequisite for your du'as to be accepted. You have to qualify as a caller, a da'. Okay, so who's a caller? Well, it's not those who just verbally and physically call Allah. There's something else here. It's an inner calling that we all have. Remember the introduction, chapter 55, verse 29? يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Everyone is calling. Everything is calling Allah in the heavens and earth. Soil, earth, fire, they are all calling. Fire is calling to burn things, water to quench things. Everything is calling Allah, and Allah answers everything. Answers the sun, answers the moon. Therefore, what they are doing is on a par with their inner calling Allah. And that's why the sun acts as it does, the moon, the plants, animals, earth, water, everything. But with humans, we shouldn't be fooled by the outer facade. and the verbal regurgitations that we call calling, that we call invoking, that we call supplicating. No. It's all a function of your soul, your inner dimension. What is that calling for before Allah, moment to moment? Whatever your inner dimension is calling out, whatever your innate nature is calling out, Allah will give. But you have to know yourself. Do you know yourself? If you know yourself, you know what you're truly asking Allah. 99% of the things we are asking Allah are manifestations of the ego. It's not based on any reality. We want more money, more this, more that. Prestige, honor, examinations, this, that, everything. However, our true self is within us, that is calling also. And in relation to that calling, Allah is giving. We don't usually pray for, oh Allah, give us sight, give us hearing, give us 2 legs, 2 arms. We on the outside, our egos do not ask for such things, but we're given it. Why? Because our inner dimension is calling for these things. And here the question of disability arises here. That Islam's take on disability is that if someone is physically, if their eyes are physically compromised or their hearing is compromised, they're disabled in different areas, their true selves were not calling for sight and hearing. And if they were to connect to their true selves, they would understand and acknowledge this wholeheartedly and would never be disappointed if they connected to their true selves, though. That's Islam's take. Now, this inner, the soul's calling, we are ignorant of what the soul is calling for because we are ignorant of ourselves. We are ignorant in relation to our souls. We don't have access, most of us, to, or all of us, in relation to what the reality of our souls and what the needs of our souls are and what we, our souls, are asking for. What is it that we're calling for? This is very important to know. If you know what your soul is calling for, you would choose the right profession. You would marry the correct lady or the correct husband, spouse. You would plan your future much better. Sometimes when you analyze your preceding years, you see that there are some patterns that arise, especially those who are over 40 years of age. You see that there are the same patterns keep on coming, then going, then they come again. For example, every time you want to start a business, you fail. It doesn't happen. Every time you want to get to marry someone, something happens. It doesn't become actualized. You want to enter a particular area of study, it doesn't happen. These patterns are good indicators for you that your inner dimension doesn't want these things. And that's why Allah doesn't answer. You, your true self, doesn't want these things. Why are you pushing yourself? See, these are guidelines for one. Now, you may say, what shapes this inner dimension, this inner nature of ours? What shapes and fashions its calling? Why is it calling X, Y, and Z the way it is and not other things? See, this is important to establish. This goes back to even before one's creation. When the mother and father want to procreate, why does Islam give a protocol for them? Why does Islam give them a protocol of action? What to eat, what to think, how to earn before procreating, having children? Because what you're doing in reality is you're shaping a soul. Procreation is very divine. And the mother and father, their spiritual status quo at the time of procreation, at the time of conception, is of utmost importance. And they are fashioning and molding and shaping the soul of their offspring. And then for the 9 months of gestation, the same is happening. The shaping of the soul is in the making. Here the mother has a much more important role. Then 2 years of breastfeeding. Here again the mother, although the father too, the way he provides for the mother, for that ambiance and atmosphere and environment. It has to be of a very tranquil environment so the mother can give her milk in the best of environments. The first 7 years, why does Islam have so many instructions on how to raise your children? What to do, what not to do in relation to your children? In the first 7 years, it has a specific protocol. In the second 7 years, another protocol, very different to the first 7 years. So look, this soul of a, let's say, 14-year-old, look how many parameters have intermingled and blended with one another for the soul to reach the level it's reached at, let's say, 14 years of age. And here there may be a lot of negative baggage accumulated and incorporated into the soul. And here the parents are responsible. Family members may be responsible. Society may be responsible. Everyone on a par with their share. The point is, though, this calling that the soul does has been shaped by a wide plethora of different things. And now we have to know ourselves to establish what we are calling for, what our innate nature is calling for. With this kind of knowledge, you can plan your future, you can plan your jobs. But if you are ignorant in relation to it, it's going to be very difficult. You keep on calling superficially, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. But that which you're existentially calling, Allah is going to give you. Even if you don't verbally exclaim it, Allah is still going to give you that which your soul is calling. The verbal calling of Allah is just an outer etiquette. It's important, that dialogue with Allah, speaking, in the sense that irrespective of whether you're given what you're asking Allah or you're not given, it doesn't matter. You've entered dialogue with Allah. That communication itself has benefits, has spiritual benefits, but that's another issue. That's just calling upon Allah irrespective of whether you'll be given it or not, that which you're calling upon, that which you're supplicating. But the reality of the matter is that which is on a par with your soul, and your soul is existentially asking for, you're going to be given that. So the question is, we have to refine our souls. But for the first 14 years, the refining of our souls was out of our hands. It was mostly in the hands of our parents, our near ones, our teachers, and so on and so forth. All this emphasis Islam has on procreation, the first 7 years, the second 7 years, the third, it's for our own benefit. It wants to build the soul. The soul has to be refined. And then whatever it calls for, it'll be given. But inshallah, it'll call for good things. God forbid, the soul may be calling moment to moment for bad things. What are we going to do there? It's going to be very problematic. And you'll be given it. So you have to be, you have to qualify as a caller. Okay, but we want to call Allah with good things so that we can enhance our perfection before Him. But if the soul is not refined, it'll just call for more and more bad things. The source of our voluntary, intentional, bad actions, the source all goes back to the attributes of the soul. How we fashioned the soul, shaped the soul, what attributes have been incorporated into the soul. With every voluntary action that you do, let's trace it back. Let's say with your hand, you commit a bad action. You don't give charity to someone, for example. If we want to trace that back, well, it's you're moving your hand away from giving charity. If someone asks, why did you move your hand? You say, I willed to move my hand away. I willed it. It was my will. I moved away, not to give charity. If someone says, okay, why did you make such a will? Why did you will not to give something? Although the opposite also applies. My example is a negative example, but we can say someone who gives charity is traced back to moving their hand. Why did they move their hand? They willed to move their hand to give charity. Both examples can be used. If then we go back one step, why did you will to give or not give charity? They will say, we had an inner pull, an inner joy to do or not to do this action. There was a pull, an attractive pull to do it or not to do it. Because of that, we then willed to then move our hand and then commit a particular action. Then someone may ask, where did this joy come from? This pull of attractive pull, where did it come from? Then we go one step back, and that is we assented the benefits of such an action. Assented meaning we conceptualized it, we deliberated it over such a thing, and that led to such a joy, which led to our willing, and then moving, and then finally actualizing that action. Then we go one step back. Where did this come from? Deliberating over the benefits of such an action. Answer, we conceptualized of that action itself, not the benefits. We didn't assent to the benefits. We didn't think about only the action itself came to us. It was conceptualized. It came to our mind. and then we deliberated over it. It led to our joy. Then we willed it. Then we moved towards it and committed it. And then finally, if they say, where did this bringing about this notion and conceptualizing this action, where did this come from? The answer is the malakat, the dispositions of your soul. For a 14-year-old, this soul, which attributes and dispositions have become incorporated into one's soul? And that's something where it can be positive, many positive attributes and dispositions, maybe negative, but it's the source to us doing good or bad. It's a very important source. Yes, and then at puberty onwards, we now have rationality. It helps us. It's now more in our hands. But until almost puberty or even further, most of these things were out of our hands. So we have to qualify as a caller. And that which we call for existentially, Allah gives that. Now, that inner nature and inner dimension for a period of time was out of our hands, and then it becomes in our hands from puberty onwards. And when it's in our hands, we can expand the inner capacity of our soul. Here, we can expand it. We can compensate for any deficiencies that may have arisen until a particular age. And it becomes more under our authority. Sometimes, though, it can be so bad that reversing it is almost, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. So that's one point. You have to be a caller. Now, Iblis, his soul was asking for evil things. His soul was asking to mislead people. That was on a par with his nature. He asked it, Allah gives. Whether you're Iblis or not Iblis, if it's on a par with your inner nature, Allah will give. Even if you're a Christian, you're a Jew, Muslim, doesn't matter. Aren't Buddhists given many things that they're asking for? Okay, their aqa'id is different. They may not acknowledge Allah as Allah is. But the calling is there. And Allah's giving is there. Allah's not miserly. Many people call, but they're not aware who they're calling. Iyaka na'bud. You alone we worship. Even when the idol worshipper is worshipping the idols, in reality he's worshipping Allah, but he's not aware of it. And therefore, he is also given that which he's calling for existentially. Then the verse says, إِذَا دَعَانِي, when he calls me. And inshallah, we'll continue from this point in the next session. When he calls me. The problem is we're not calling Allah. We're calling other than Allah. What we are calling is futile. We're not calling him. And that's the second prerequisite. The verse is alluding to two prerequisites. Inshallah, we'll speak more and add a number of marginal points, inshallah, tomorrow. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi tahirin.
Thank you very much to the Sheikh for this very insightful lecture. Inshallah, you can join us again tomorrow at the same time, and there will be a Q&A session as well. That's it for me and myself. I'm from 10th day. Inshallah, I hope to see you again tomorrow.